Once you have scanned or photographed your cell, you're going to go ahead and bring it into Photoshop. And the first thing we're going to want to do is clean it up. So here is an example of a student's work, and she just used collage for this, so it's all just cut up computer printouts. And she thought really carefully about how this was going to tile, so she was really good about using her corners, her edges. So we just want to get rid of this line or this border because we don't want that to repeat. So using the cropping tool, over on the left here, those two L brackets, I'm just going to pull in this border or edge or frame. And if it's crooked, you might need to hover your cursor in the corner and then you can straighten it out a little bit. And then when you're satisfied with that, you'll double click or you'll hit return or enter. So you just want to make sure that it looks nice and clean. I'm going to zoom in, Command plus, and then hit the space bar and then move this around just to make sure that there's nothing that I feel like I need to erase. This does look really, really clean, so there isn't anything that I feel I need to get rid of, but you should absolutely use your eraser tool if you have things going on that you want to get rid of. So once this looks good, let's see, zoom out a little bit, then I'm going to save it by hitting Command S. And I'm going to save it as a JPEG. Okay, maximum quality. So now this cell is ready to be tiled and made into a pattern. So the first thing we want to do is create a file for your wrapping paper. So you'll go up to File and then down to New. And then you'll put your name in it. I'll put Alexis's name. Let's see, wrapping paper, and you want this file to be 11 inches wide and 17 inches tall, and we're going to set it at 300 pixels per inch or DPI, and this is print quality. So even though you might not end up printing this out, should you decide eventually that you love it and you do want to print it out, then you're all set. You have a nice big file. And then you want to set your color mode to CMYK. So CMYK is for print and RGB is for looking at on the computer. So assuming that one day we're going to want to print these, potentially we're going to make it CMYK, and then I've set it at 16-bit. For your background, you can either make it white or you can make it transparent, whatever works for you. I'm going to keep it with white, and then I'm going to hit OK. All right, so this is going to be my wrapping paper. So now what I need to do is I need to set this as a pattern and then fill this with that pattern. So you're going to click on your cell and you're going to hit Command A, which selects everything. And you'll come up to Edit and you will scroll down to Define Pattern. You can name it something if you want to. It'll, the default is totally fine. You'll hit OK. So now we're telling the computer that this is our pattern. And I'm going to come over to the wrapping paper file, and now I'm going to tile it. So I'm going to repeat this pattern by creating a fill layer. So I come up to Layer, and then I scroll down to New Fill Layer, and then over to Pattern. And you can name it if you want to. I just let the default be, and I hit OK. And you'll see that it tiles it. So on the pattern fill, there's a little menu that pops up, and this is where you can change the size of it. So this would be like 100%. So if I make it really huge, right, then it's not a pattern at all. If I make it crazy small, then it's like, what? Super teeny tiny pattern. So you kind of have to decide what size you want this. How many times do you want this to repeat? There's no right or wrong to it, but I would say at least 3 cells across is probably pretty good. So 3 cells across would be good. So now I'm going to hit, I like the look of this. I think that looks really nice. So I'm going to hit OK. And then what I can do, if I come over to my Move tool, I can move this, click on it and move it so that I'm lining it up so that I have basically the same negative space on both the right and the left and on the top and the bottom. So I just want it to make it look, you know, kind of as balanced as I can get it. All right, let's say I'm happy with that. So now what I'm noticing, and you might have this or you might not, I'm noticing now that there are some tonal differences, right, from right to left. And so one thing I can do is I can erase this background basically. I can clean this up. There's a few different ways I can clean it up. I could use an eraser and go through and actually erase every single seam. It's a little time consuming, but it's not that big of a deal. Or I can come over to my eraser tool, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this little arrow. I'm going to hold it down, and I'm going to come to background eraser tool. And let's see, I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to go ahead and click, hit OK if that pops up for you. And I'm going to go ahead and click on this. And let's see, hover again. Let's try the magic eraser tool and click on that. All right, so oftentimes the background eraser tool works really beautifully. It didn't for me that one time. You could see when I clicked on it. So if I hit Command Z, so I want to go back. When I clicked on background eraser tool, and let me just make the brush bigger up here, and I clicked on this, it just, see how it's just like erasing like a normal eraser? It's not really taking an entire section out or like the whole thing out. So let me Command Z, all that. And then, so that's fine, you know, if I were more patient, I could totally go through and erase all of that, but patience is not my strong point. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to try the magic eraser tool. So now when I click on that, there we go. So now you can see it has erased pretty much all of that weird kind of tonal shifts, except it didn't get that little change that I made before. So let me go back and let's do do that again. Okay. It's just, you know, not going to cooperate with me. That's what happens when you do a demo. You will find this. So let's go to background eraser tool, and then I'm just going to come through and get rid of that. And let's see. Okay, I'm going to zoom out. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm not really seeing a lot of seams. Now the other thing that I could have done is I could have gotten rid of that when it was just my cell. So if I had clicked on background eraser tool when it was just the one piece and gotten rid of it, that would have been probably a faster, more elegant way to do it. So to completely remove that at the cellular level would have made it easier when I tiled it. All right, so the other thing you can think about doing is you could create another layer, say if you wanted to make this background full of color. You could add a new fill layer with a solid color. And let's try something crazy like that. And then I'm going to pull it underneath here. So this is kind of the hierarchy, right? So you want to make sure if you're doing a background color fill that you pull it underneath the layer with your pattern. So if you have it on top, you're gonna think like, oh my God, no, I ruined it. But you didn't. And you can click on this and then, you know, play around with whatever color you feel like might be nice. Think about contrast. So you don't want your background color to compete so much with your image. So, you know, so, ooh, that's kind of nice. So you could think about going really dark. You could think about going light. But where I had it before, you know, something like, oh, where was it? Something like this, I feel like this is so low contrast, right? Like the blue and the violet are kind of functioning in the same way. And so neither one of them really gets to shine. But I feel like if I make it lighter, that works pretty well. Or if I make it really dark, that could work really well. So play around with it, have fun. Once you are happy with whatever color it is that you want, ooh, oof, that's loud. But I'm gonna go ahead with it because this is, you know, obnoxious. This is I don't know if you guys can kind of guess what this was. So we've got explosions and we've got crystals. So this was for pop rocks, which is kind of fun. So let's say I'm happy with this. I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK, and then I'm gonna save it. So again, I hit Command S, excuse me, to save it. And remember, PSD Photoshop document, that's your working document. But when you finish your project, you're going to want to save it as a JPEG, and that's what you're going to submit to Camino. So you hit JPEG and then save, and then maximum quality, and then you are good to go. And then, yes, it's going to always prompt you to save the Photoshop document as well. It's nice. It's nice to have. You might fall in love with this whole process that you might make wrapping paper and you'll never have to buy it again. Like all of your gifts will have custom wrapping paper, which is pretty badass. I'm not going to save that. All right. Have so much fun. I'm excited to see what you guys come up with.